My 44 meters wife 41F was recently contacted by her ex-boyfriend cowriter 36 meters and I've grown a bit nervous. Hello everyone, let me first start by saying that my wife and I are very open, maybe way too open about our past and past partners and all that. She is my second wife. My first wife was big on fidelity and we broke up over her cheating. The ex and I share a son. My wife also has a daughter of her own from a previous marriage. We've been married for 5 years and our little blended family works well together. As I mentioned earlier, we are perhaps too open about our past relationships. Her first husband was a serial cheater. He was a musician and slept around with women from his gigs. She stumbled onto his emails only to learn that he was involved with 5 other women, one of which he'd gotten pregnant. Not wanting their child to grow up in a broken home, she wanted to save the relationship, and reached out to one of her old internet friends for advice. We'll call him Chris. The two had been friends for 7 years up until that point but had never met. They were writing partners. In fact, before they lost contact they had been writing a novel together. She tells me that when she reached out for support he was very kind and had actually been recommending a lot ways to get past infidelity or what you should speak to attorney about. In general, being a good friend. Somewhere in that they decided to revisit writing their book again. According to her, they would casually flirt, but as they lived on opposite sides of the country they had no means to act. In all this she decided her marriage was dead and stopped trying to fix things, checked out I guess. She and Chris expressed mutual attraction and by the end of the year he flew out to meet her. She filed for divorce right after the affair got physical, and Chris moved later that year to be with her. To make a long story short, her daughter, who was only 5 at the time, didn't really take to him. As she says, he didn't do anything wrong, she just wasn't adjusting properly after the divorce and didn't like somebody replacing her father. My wife told him they needed to take a break due to this and due to the fact that he's a bit crass sometimes. She had only intended for it to be a short break, but he was apparently so hurt that he'd moved that far to be turned away 2 months in, so he broke it off entirely. After months had gone by, they reconnected to try and finish their book. They began sleeping together again during this time, but it was just a physical thing. They came close to finishing the book, but she started dating me, thus they stopped sleeping together. She felt weird about having an ex hanging around once she got in a committed relationship, and so by her own admission she stopped returning his emails, which were all book related, with the same frequency and stopped working on it on her end so much. He grew frustrated after a few months of this and blocked her on everything, which finally brings us to a month ago. After 4 or 5 years of no contact he messages her out of the blue. He contracted COVID and nearly died. Chris contacted her because apparently in that time apart he rewrote the book without her contributions, managed to get published, wrote and published a sequel, and released his work came really close to not be finished if he died. He wanted to make it known that if something should happen to him that he wanted the rights of this thing turned over to her as she knows how it will end, and helped create the story. Fair enough, that actually sounds nice, but then they get to talking. He's apparently writing a comic adaptation, and he invited her to come on board for it. He has a lot of the art done and she was very excited, showing me and explaining to me who all the characters were, their backstories, what she thinks he got wrong in the design. She also read the first book and is telling me which names he changed, what characters were and weren't in their version, the plot differences, and she seems to be having a lot of fun with it. I knew they wrote together, she's mentioned it before, but I had no idea they had this whole universe created. I can tell it was something that was really important to her. She seems like she might take him up on the offer, and this worries me. Every time they've worked on something in the past it leads to S-time. And there is a bit of S-time-ul content in their writing. I'm not the jealous type, and I certainly don't want to step on a dream she had buried, but I don't want a repeat of history. I'll admit I decided to snoop their conversation, and while he seems like he's been on the level and is only really discussing the project, she's pressing for information on his personal life. I wouldn't say in a flirty way, but she asked him if he's seeing anyone now, and when he answered no, he's too busy, that relationships just get in the way, she told him he needs to get back out there. That celibacy isn't a good look on him. We're pretty open about our past S-time life, so I know her ex-husband was terrible at it, And once when drunk she said of Chris, don't let a great duck convince you it'll be a great relationship. How the hell do I proceed? I know she was emotionally broken by her ex-husband and that's why she cheated. But she did cheat with this man. I've met him, he seems like an on-the-level guy, but they have a history that tells me something might happen. I want to approach my wife with my concerns, but I don't want to seem like an overbearing, controlling person. I want her to have her creative outlet, because she glows in a way I've never seen before when she talks about this book I barely knew anything about. It feels like it's something that was deeply important to her that she efforts not to be important. I want that for her, but I don't want their interactions to escalate into something more like they have 3 times already. Update my 44 meters wife 41F was recently contacted by her ex-boyfriend cowriter 36 meters and I've grown a bit nervous. A few people suggested I post this here as well. Edit 1 I'm gathering info pics and screenshots of her location and speaking with a lawyer tomorrow. Edit 2 I've met with my brother's divorce attorney and we're making plans. I am documenting everything, all texts, her location, where she's claiming to go. I'm confronting her on the 2nd next month after she goes to the hotel with him. I'm making sure I have my ducks in a row and I'm trying not to ruin Christmas forever for the kids. Edit 3 The wave of suicidal thoughts have passed and I thank everyone who left kind messages for me. Really got me over the HMP. My wife's ex-boyfriend re-emerged in her life asking to work on a mutual writing project that she abandoned years ago that he's achieving financial success with now. I don't know who this woman is. The level of deception is so involved and deliberate that I'm hardly capable of comprehending that I've spent the last 6 years of my life with this person. I decided to sit down with her and talk about how I felt about the situation, that I was happy she rediscovered her old writing and expressed that it would be cool for her to explore that as a hobby or a profession as she's quite good at it and clearly enjoys it. At the time she agreed, and said that Chris, her ex being around wouldn't be a good thing, saying she was worried that he might be using this as a ploy to talk with her again. When she said these things I was like okay cool, she has the same misgivings I do and she's not minimizing my feelings or calling me controlling, in fact we're on the same page. Oh how wrong I was. That conversation should have been the end of it, but for some reason my brain started getting weird and I began thinking it was going too well. Yesterday morning when she got in the shower I took her phone and went into it. His number was there and their entire conversation had been deleted. It hadn't been 3 days prior. Red flags. Checked Facebook Messenger, she's talking about her upcoming trip for work which takes her to Vegas. Well apparently this 2-day-long thing has been cancelled due to COVID but she's been telling me she's going. They are discussing a hotel a town over and staying there as well as sending each other people's vacation photos of Vegas so she'll have stuff to show if I ask. She's talking about restaurants they can go to, how there will be a full moon when he's here, and it would look great on the beach. Oh yeah, and he's not on the East Coast as he presented, he moved back to town recently since the prick actually has enough money to live here. He showed her on Google Maps where he's living and it's taking everything I have not to drive my truck straight into his living room. A month ago she claimed that she had to pick up her brother from the airport. Nope. That was him. The messages don't go back much further than that but they reference talking about stuff during the years they supposedly haven't had contact. One line I read that he wrote has my heart racing with such ducking madnesses from him. Yeah, we're just friends. I don't see you in 8 years and I'm inside you 20 minutes off the plane. Best friends maybe. So she's not just planning to duck him, she's been doing it for months. That trip to her mother's a few weeks back where she stayed the night, yeah. I haven't confronted her yet, but her smile fills me with so much hate now. I'm going to try my best and hold back on saying anything until after Christmas. The kids don't need the holiday being a constant reminder of this, but honestly I'm probably gonna snap and confront her today or tomorrow because my ability to swallow this bullshit with a smile is almost impossible. Honestly I'll be lucky if I can avoid taking a bath with the toaster. I'm losing my mind right now. Update. I'd like to thank everyone who offered advice when I first posted this yesterday. It helped keep my mind away from darker places and it gave my hands something to do. I've been talking with my brother for support and have continued to monitor their communications. She noticed me acting different and I told her it was just me having the blues over the anniversary of my aunt's death, which was enough so she didn't start realizing I know all I know. I spent 3 hours today in my car outside of a McDonald's using their Wi-Fi to access her emails, and they're using ducking Yahoo Messenger to communicate. She's on this with her TTS out in a ton of pics, all of which I'm saving. Real cute. There's one with her posed with flowers I got her for her birthday. They've been essing since like March. Some select quotes from her. I can't just start talking about the book all the time. I talked about you twice when he and I got together. If I started talking about you and the book a lot now, he's gonna think something is up. You need to shave because that stubble is like knives. Almost had to put chapstick on my chin and under my nose. From him, you're getting it right before you leave here. I want him to kiss you after you spent the afternoon swallowing me. Honestly, my compulsion not to beat this man to death is strong. I won't do it, but the fact that he's so purposefully vicious is making me want to wear his teeth as a necklace. Update. Confronted her today. I've never seen someone implode like this. A heads up, I began writing this the day it happened and I'm not rewriting it. So if some of my feelings don't reflect exactly what my comments were saying in the last couple of days, that's why. I've got some work to do today, so I might not respond to anything for quite some time. I never want to go through anything like this ever again. This was the single most difficult thing I've ever had to do, and I'm twitching like a tweaker every so often now. She left for either work or Chris's today, not really sure where she went, but she was gone. Tried to check her location and either she turned off locations or my phone was giving me issues. I didn't have the means to serve her, that comes later this week, but I had to confront her before she realized what I was doing so she wouldn't have any more time to formulate some working lies. Heard my garage door opening and turned on the camera on. She comes in completely oblivious. I tell her she ought to sit down because we've got to talk. Deer in the headlights look, but she sits down and asks me what's wrong. I ask, why don't you tell me? She plays dumb, but I see she knows she's been found out. She asks me again what's wrong. I ask her what's really up with Chris. She says nothing, she hasn't heard from him. I redirect and decide to not confront her as directly and tell her that I'm uncomfortable with her working with him and that it's not something I can get past. She's 100% instantly agreeable and asks me very nervously why I changed my mind so quick and why I'm acting the way I am. I just shake my head and say something like, I wanted to be understanding about it, but I got weird vibes from him and I'd prefer they wouldn't talk. She insists that he doesn't mean anything to her anymore, that she was just happy to see the book get made. I told her that he basically stole from her and she's being way too understanding about that fact. That she ought to sue him over it, and she agrees with me. By now she's probably thinking she got out of this and is going to break it off with Chris the minute she gets a second to do so. But then I tell her the whole thing has really stressed me out and I'm gonna take next week out of work. I tell her that I talked with my ex and she agreed to keep my son that weekend so I could go to Vegas with her. That's why I was talking to my ex for so long the other day, working out the details of her taking my son, or at least that's what I'd have her think. Deadpan stare. I start talking about how COVID has shut down a lot of stuff and I'm not even sure what's open in Vegas. She cuts me off and tells me that it was actually canceled today. The conversation from here on goes like this. Paraphrased of course. Me, it got canceled last month. Her, no. He told us today because he wasn't sure whether or not it was off until today. Me, I know it got canceled last month. Her, what are you doing? Why are you telling me you want to go and then telling me it's canceled? I don't get what you're doing. Me, it was canceled last month. What were you gonna do if I didn't ask about it? Her, you're freaking me out. It was canceled today. Me, what were you going to do in town? Name where her hotel is. Her, what are you accusing me of? Me, how long have you and Chris been back together? Her, we haven't done anything. Did he tell you we were? Me, don't lie to me. I don't want read off everything he texted. It almost made me throw up doing it the first time. I can't believe you do this. Her, I love you. I'm sorry. He's been texting me a lot lately and saying a lot of messed up stuff and I don't know how to deal with it. I wanted to tell you this, but I was afraid you'd do what you're doing now. I was just hoping he'd stop on his own. Me, you didn't see him for 8 years and 20 minutes after he got off the plane you had time with him. Her, what plane? What are you reading? Me, he lives on street name. You want to stop this? Just admit what you did so we can move forward with this. Why did you tell me he lived in East Coast? Or did he say something to you? He lies constantly, it's part of the reason why we broke up. I told you that. I knew I shouldn't have responded to his messages, it's always drama with him. All his messages were fine, but he started with the missing me stuff again like always. I was going to tell you. He wanted you to come home and kiss me after you were going down on him. I read your messages, I saw them in your email and in your texts. You're cheating on me and I want you out of this house today. Or what? I'm not cheating on you. If you don't want him around, I'll tell him to get lost, but honey, I'm not cheating on you. Is that what he told you? He's lying. Stop it. I told you I went in your messages on your phone. You're going to get your stuff and you're going to go to your parents. I made copies of your emails and screenshots from your texts. I don't want to show them what you two say to each other, but if you're going to keep lying to my face, I will. We're done, go get your stuff. She tried even in the face of all that to play stupid and lie, but finally tired of it, I broke out my copies of their texts and handed them to her. She looked at them for 2 seconds and then broke down crying hard. Like I've never seen her this devastated by anything. I even felt bad for her for a little while. She said she was sorry, that it got out of hand and she wanted to put the brakes on it, but he had gotten possessive and was threatening to expose her if she ended it with him. I told her that none of that was in their text and that she's still lying to me. She was going to go off and spend the weekend with him. She then told me it's done between them and she'll make him go away, she won't ever talk to him again. I told her I don't care what she does, but I've been talking to a lawyer and the divorce papers will be ready soon. At this point she explodes and repeats, "You've been talking to a lawyer?" Like 4 or 5 times, and honestly I was ready to call the cops because she's closing in on me and really screaming now. I tell her to calm down, that I have a camera going. She then continues to break down and not resemble anyone I've ever met before. Kept saying stuff like, "You just planned all this out." Smiling to my face, just planning this all out. Which every time she did I responded with the same, "Well, look at what you've been planning," and smiling to my face while you're out doing S-time acts. I asked her why she'd do this to us, and at first she couldn't give me a straight answer. She tried to tell me it was meaningless S-time, so I responded with, "Oh, so you ruined us for no reason, then that's great." After a bit she sort of got quieter, and I don't know if she was being honest or just trying to hurt me, but apparently she really messed up with him in her eyes. She called him her soulmate and I nearly started breaking stuff. I asked her why she just didn't ditch me for him in the beginning. I would have understood then, and she says she just needed to get away from him because she knew how bad she'd look to her family if she brought him back around. Apparently they didn't like him either. She also said that she could never and can never actually be with him because her ex and daughter would fight her on this. So going back to him legitimately was never an option. She then said she was sorry and seemed to be in disbelief with how final I was with everything. She told me how much of a mistake it was, how much she would change and do whatever I wanted her to just to fix the situation. I told her no. She then told me weren't getting a divorce because she could make amends for this. I told her there was nothing she could do to earn my forgiveness. I will not forgive this ever, and somehow she had the gall to be shocked by this. I told her then I opened an account in another bank and moved half from the joint account into it this morning and that the rest is hers. She can either get it herself or I can get it for her, but the account is getting closed. She just nodded along and said we'd probably both have to go to the bank together to close it. She went and started packing her clothes up, peacefully, crying a little and oddly enough making threats every so often that she had better not have anything missing. I let it roll off my shoulder and told her to take pics of how she left her things and daughter's things so when she comes back she'll see I didn't touch anything. Her folks had been contacted and they're in disbelief. They're both surprised that Chris is even a factor in any of this and spent time apologizing to me, and soon after she was out of my house. The next day SDBX hit my phone with so many "I love you, I'm sorry, we can fix this" texts that I contemplated flushing my phone. I wanted to just turn it off, but my ex-wife had my son, so I needed it on just in case of an emergency or a change in plans when he was coming home. So I just started responding to her texts by sending screenshots of the worst parts of their conversation and saying nothing of my own. Ex returned with my son and brought dinner from my favorite Chinese place. I didn't give my son the exact reason when I told him, but he asked flat out whether she'd cheated because it was so sudden, and I told him he was right without elaborating. They stayed for a while before returning home, and I've just been kind of floating around the house trying to keep it together. It's like 2 or 3 days since I began writing this, and I'm off to the gym and then my lawyers. This thing is already way too long, and things are updating so rapidly that I could be typing forever and never finish. My SDBX's ex-husband is going to come by and collect his daughter's things, and I'll explain to her the best I can that if she ever needs me, I'm just a phone call away. I'm also contemplating telling her ex that she ran around with Chris on him as well, because she said many times he doesn't know. But maybe I won't, that accomplishes nothing really. Anyway, first fight has been fought, and it looks like I'm winning as much as one can win given the circumstances. Part of me wants to confront Chris, but I'm smart enough that all that would be a waste of time and energy. Time better spent working or hitting the gym or finding some way to thank my ex-wife for being an absolute MVP in my corner through this. Anyway, that's all I got for now. Sorry if this is disjointed, but it's taken me a couple days to write, and of course developments keep happening. Update, 3-month progression update. Just before Christmas last year, a little over 2 months ago, I discovered that my wife had been cheating on me with an old boyfriend. They had planned for a romantic weekend together, which I ruined for them when I confronted her. This will be long. So as an update, I've mostly gone no contact with my SDBX. I tried just communicating with her through my lawyer if we had a real reason to talk, but that made me feel like a child that was avoiding confrontation, even if that wasn't the case, and I decided to speak with her myself a few times. If you've been following the lengthy comment streams from my previous posts, you already know what was discussed, but I'll write everything here as if it's the first time I'm doing it. The SDBX at first was all over the place with how she talked about Chris. One minute he was her soulmate and the one that got away, the next he was a predator that would not leave her alone. Our family and friends have all heard the truth by now, and most of them have taken my side on the matter. Given the details I provided in my lengthy FB post, there was little room to side with her anyhow. She's since moved into her parents for the time being, and I remained in my home. It was acquired many years before I even met her, so that's not even an issue divorce-wise. Strangely enough, Chris, the AP, decided to write me this huge harangue of a letter. For what reason, God only knows. I got the impression from it that she must have dumped him in anger shortly after I gave her the boot, because it's laden with stuff like we were repairing our relationship when you stole her from me. I've loved her for X amount of years, so don't post stuff online about how I'm a cheat. It really made me see red, and I wanted to do the man some serious physical harm, but once again I saw reason. Life has been pretty lonely in this house since she and my stepdaughter moved. The stepdaughter's room is still empty, and I have to leave the door closed because seeing it empty always hurts me, and I can't bring myself to do anything with it yet. She has a father, and he's a good dad, and because of him I still see her once during the week. I take her for bike rides or we go grab something to eat together. I asked her once if she felt comfortable eating at my house, and the poor thing just started crying. She loves her grandparents but doesn't like living with them, so she's been spending more time with her father. Her old man has invited me over a couple times for a beer. We had a few conversations about our mutual ex and Chris. I think I mentioned in the comments on my last post, but he knew the entire time she was cheating on him. I see my son and my ex-wife a lot more now. One of my weekdays lines up with their schedule, so I'll stop in for dinner, and I've been keeping him an extra day for my weekends, and she will generally join us for dinner on Friday night. I've asked my son if he wants to talk about how he feels concerning my upcoming divorce, and he's not saying it so much, but he's hurting. The first couple of times he just got this far off stare and was like, I don't want to even think about her. And that he loved her and didn't expect her of all people to do this to him. And it really hit me when he said that. We always think about how someone's affair does to us, like it's an act of malice against us, but what she did to me, coming from him, hurt more than anything she could have ever done to me. I've discussed therapy with he and his mom, but he insists he's alright, and if he feels he can't handle it, he'll talk to us. He's a mature kid, and I trust his judgment, usually pretty upfront with how he's doing. He and I actually for the first time in private discussed the divorce between his mother and I and the reasons behind it. I really didn't want to at first, as he is currently raging about adultery and he has a great relationship with his mom. But he was asking about it, so I opted for polite honesty. I told him his mother hurt me just as much, but what she did was just a very poor choice, and that I'm not upset about it anymore, but it took a while. Speaking of my ex-wife, she's had my back through much of this. She's pretty much the reason I started having dinner with them one night during the week and keeping my son longer, because she insists I'll do better to not be constantly alone in that house. A lot of people have suggested that she and I reunite. If I was to ever come to the decision, I would want to wait to be done with some therapy sessions, perhaps couples therapy if she was anywhere in this ballpark. We did briefly discuss our own divorce and the infidelity that led to it. I've moved past it and don't feel defazed by it anymore, but she talks about it like she just got caught. It's not the first time I've done so, but I told her that I forgive her for it. I even added this time that, giving more consideration to how she described the encounter, it's likely she was preyed on by some creep because she had too much to drink. This wasn't a guy she knew very well and had only seen around her place of work a few times, as, if I'm remembering this right, either didn't work in her area or worked at a separate location. In either case, she has literally not seen him since like a few days after it happened. It's a little tough thinking about that too, because even though it doesn't bother me on a regular basis anymore, the fact of the matter is I was really loving my life up until she broke the bad news to me. The STBX kind of smoothed things over for me when that relationship started, but once again, right as I'm feeling my life is great and I'm happy, infidelity messes that up for me. Kind of makes me really unwilling to even consider another relationship if this is what all my time and effort leads to. All that said, I'm taking a trip to Disney World this July to try and wash my mind of all this. Originally it was supposed to be me, the ex-wife, and my son, but I've managed to talk the STBX into allowing my stepdaughter to come along so she won't feel excluded. She'll probably just use the time to bang her next unfortunate soul, but that's not my problem anymore. Update: should be divorced by July and I cannot wait. Hello again everyone, it's about 6 months from my first post on here. In short, out of the blue one day my wife of 5 years claimed an ex-boyfriend she used to write with suddenly appeared again, wanting to know if she could work on an old mutual project together. Well, as you might have guessed, she was having an affair that went back for quite a long time. Their dirty emails to each other disgusted me as they were extremely, almost intentionally hurtful. It wasn't bad enough for her to cheat on me, but he said he wanted her to go home and greet me filled with him, so to speak. I held my it together for the kids for Christmas. She has a daughter and I have a son. I confronted her, threw her out, and went as no contact as I possibly could. Her AP Chris sent me a few messages after the fact claiming that I have no reason to be upset because in his eyes I stole her from him, and he'd been holding this one-sided grudge for the last 5 years and talked as if we had been enemies for quite some time. In short, my STBX's family never approved of him, so she dumped him. She went on to claim they were soulmates and that's why she couldn't turn him away. Well, I've been keeping my health, working out, continuing to work from home, but that'll be over soon. I've kept contact with my stepdaughter through her grandparents and her biological father, whom she also cheated on with this man, though he's cheated on my STBX multiple times. He's an alright guy to have a beer with, and for all his faults he seems like a good dad. I see her twice a week now, never overnight, and even still I've kept her former room empty because it's too depressing to me to consider doing anything else with it. She's been my princess, and she's always excited when she comes to visit or I show up to take her to dinner or for bike rides. After a bit, my son has decided that he thinks he could benefit from therapy and has been seeing a doctor. His mother, my first wife, and I have been keeping a close eye on him as he was pretty close to his stepmother. She's tried to contact him and apologize, but he doesn't want to speak to her. He began getting impulsive and had bouts of angry outbursts unrelated to her, and it was then I asked him if he thought he might do well with therapy. He told me how betrayed he felt by what she'd done, that he hated her, he missed his stepsister, and he wanted everything to just be erased, and I really felt for him. I don't think we've talked heart to heart or hugged one another in our entire lives more than we have in the past few months. His mother has really been at my side through most of this, and we've gotten a lot closer too. At first she was inviting me over for dinner a couple days a week because she thought it was unhealthy for me to spend so much time alone in an empty house. I'm around steadily more now, and many nights a week we eat dinner like a family. My folks and her folks have both taken notice of this and have both been asking us whether or not, seeing as things are getting on so well, if we'd consider reconciling. We said we're both happy with things as they are, but knowing everyone is talking about us make it difficult for us not to talk about it ourselves. Minus the physical affection, we're basically acting really similar toward one another like we did when we were married, which is comforting and warm, but that's soon going to get to a place where it needs a good long talk about. All that's been said thus far is nothing is going to be attempted or even discussed until our son's life has normalized. These changes hurt him. As for my SDBX and how things are going on that front, from what I've learned, she's just bought herself a condo and moving on with her life. Her mother and father are deeply ashamed of what she's done, and in their words, my stepdaughter is frequently back-talking her mom. I'd like to report to you all that she's gravely suffering or is a weeping mess, but no, STBX seems like she's off to go ruin another guy's life. I did, however, cross paths with Chris at a grocery store last month. He turned pale white and I pointed him out to my brother, which I shouldn't have done. He started following him around and shouting variations of F-King Prince Charming over here. Fat loser's gonna eat both those Red Barons tonight before he starts texting your wife, guys. I forced us to leave and we'll be shopping elsewhere, though I did get a good laugh out of it. Update somewhat, just digging around on an old laptop and came across this gem of conversation. I've changed the names, but here is basically a cut and paste version of how deceitful these two were. Ex-wife: I'm not sure if I'm being paranoid, but I feel like my husband is growing suspicious. I don't know what I should do. I'm trying to act normal, but I'm really starting to worry. I'm probably just paranoid. He's not tracking my phone or computer or anything. He does try to look over my shoulder or take peeks at my screen though. I don't stop him when he does. 1:20, 1:59 p.m. X. All the times he has peeked we weren't talking about anything worth suspicion. Chris. 1:20, 2:03 p.m. I think the best way to go about this is to not change your routine. If you get any more distant he might catch on, but if you become too friendly, same logic applies. If you could do anything, I would say perhaps talk about the story like in a complete professional way and exclude me from it when you do. So it will seem more like a business-friendly relationship rather than an old boyfriend. But I don't know him. I've met him that one time. Usually I have the honor of sizing up the other half's mental capacity, but I'm flying blind with this and completely trusting you. I say you remain exactly as you are, no change in routine unless you think the book suggestion works. My ex. 1:20, 2:04 p.m. Okay, that's exactly what I was thinking. Good. He can be a genius or a complete idiot. And he's very reserved, so sometimes his body language is hard to read. But yes, I need to start talking about the book, cause I think Hess wondering why I'm on here all the time with you. I haven't mentioned the book at all. Chris. 1:20, 2:07 p.m. Make an offhand remark. Oh, he's goddamn whining about his boyfriend again. He needs to leave the prick, lol. I know he lives in Wisconsin. Stop whining about it, lol. My ex. 1:20, 2:07 p.m. No, he thinks you're still married and have a son. And you're one of my old writing friends. That's pretty much all I've said about you aside from our fling at the end of her ex-husband's name. Chris. 1:20, 2:10 p.m. Okay, well, if you have to or the subject gets brought up, think of some small romantic cheesy gesture I just did for my wife and I say I look like a sissy for it, lol. The best way I'm not a threat is if my family and yours are somewhat relatable. The more domestic I appear the better. My ex. 1:20, 2:14 p.m. Yeah, I agree, but I don't want to start talking about you lots either. I haven't in the past, why should I now? If he asks, I'll make up stuff on the fly. Chris. 1:20, 2:14 p.m. Exactly. My ex. 1:20, 2:14 p.m. I think I'll start getting excited about the book now. That way if I seem giddy or stressed I can use that as an excuse. Chris. 1:20, 2:15 p.m. When you do, mention my wife is doing concept art for it and that's one of the reasons it excites you. It is not a stretch, it establishes I am domestic and that she is well aware of my activité, and if she's not worried, why should he be? My ex. 1:20, 2:17 p.m. Yeah, I see that. Okay, I can handle this. It's probably all in my own head anyways. Chris. 1:20, 2:19 p.m. Yes, it probably is. If an accusation comes at all, just have something ready like, no, oh my god, he's married and he's retardedly obsessed with his wife. He was telling me all his pet names and I almost signed off lol. My ex, 1:20 2:19 p.m. Lol okay. Chris, 1:20 2:21 p.m. Sorry, I have a lot of ready-made plots. The Smurf? Is usually checking my phone, there's nothing. My ex, 1:20 2:21 p.m. We're not new at this. Chris, 1:20 2:22 p.m. Well, it won't be nearly as complicated, seeing as any change in your behavior will be only momentary. My ex, 1:20 2:23 p.m. True, I think I can do this. Chris, 1:20 2:23 p.m. You'll be fiend, we've done it before. My ex, 1:20 2:23 p.m. No, I know I can do this. Chris, 1:20 2:24 p.m. You've got it. My ex, 1:20 2:24 p.m. In my obsessive compulsive nature, it is taking like everything in me to not make a list of things to do before our adventure lol. I usually hide all my flaws, but no, you get to see and hear about all of them lol, you poor thing. You must think I'm neurotic. Chris, 1:20 2:28 p.m. I like seeing this side of you. I don't think you're neurotic, but the paranoia, the planning, your excitement makes me feel good that I can still excite you this much. My ex, 1:20 2:29 p.m. For your sake, I'll let you take credit for most of that then. I'm paranoid without reason also, but you've most certainly elevated it to a new level. Update, it's been a year since D-Day. There's been kidnapping, assault, and hospitalization since my last post. I have 2 ex-wives. To avoid confusion, I will be referring to my latest ex-wife as ex-wife and my first ex-wife as my son's mother. This week a year ago, I was sitting around trying to process my ex-wife telling me about her ex Chris approaching her with aspirations of writing a book based of their previous work together. It was an obvious front to further their ongoing affair, and I was so stupid not to see it. Anyhow, I confronted her and threw her out, and she went to live with her parents, taking her stepdaughter with her. I maintained contact with my stepdaughter for quite some time and still do make time for her, but she's had it worse than anyone. I guess I'll give an update to that first. My stepdaughter was essentially kidnapped by her biological father some time after my last update. I've said it before, but her father is not from my country and has citizenship from the country he came from. Every couple of years he would take his daughter to his country to see his family, but this time he refused to send her back home. His given reason was that our mutual ex-wife was poisoned and he wanted his daughter away from her. In the end, he shot himself in the foot on that front because 2 months later he caved to pressure from his own family and sent her back, and is not returning because he'll most likely be arrested if he returns to the States, so he removed himself as a good influence in her life and left her in the hands of someone we both consider poison. Things did not get better from there on my ex's side of things. Shortly after the divorce was finalized, but before her ex-husband ran off with the child, she had begun dating a new man. I was unaware of this until my former in-laws contacted me to say that she'd been hospitalized. She and Chris, her affair partner, had as many guests, began sleeping together again, and from what former Mill told me, she broke it off with him again to pursue a new man. Chris took her to a Motel 6 where he sprung it on her that he was sick of being treated how he was treated. When she tried to walk back to her car, he snapped, picked her up over his head and slammed her down on the concrete parking lot. He attacked and drove off a good Samaritan before stomping on one of her hands and then choking her so hard she had dark purple bruises and a fractured vertebrae in her neck. Thankfully, he's behind bars now and is facing a slew of assault charges and perhaps even attempted murder, but have not followed up on the legal aspects of any of it. She is in physical therapy and in recovery, as she was also concussed in the assault and is pretty hazy a lot of the time. No matter what she did to me, seeing her in this condition breaks my heart. My stepdaughter spends a lot of time with me these days as I am trying to do what I can to help the situation. She is understandably not in the best spirits, but spending time with my son, my son's mother, and I at least gives her a solid place to stand. That just leaves my first wife, my son's mother. A lot of people have expressed a desire to see us reconcile, and in many ways we have. Neither of us is pushing the other back into a relationship, but we have discussed our past, the infidelity that separated us, and the fact that she has been forgiven by me. We aren't officially back together, but it isn't uncommon for us to spend the night at each other's place, and as we speak it's been 5 days since we've slept in different houses. We sleep separately, as I'm sure this all confuses my son, but we've been intimate regularly for over a month now. It's going nice and easy, nobody is pushing for anything more than what we have, and for the moment it's working out. I could go on for many more paragraphs, but I think I'll wrap up this update and answer questions as they come. Redditors' reactions. Redditor 1, I don't get it, you left a cheater to be with another cheater. Seriously, man? Millions of women out there, and it feels like you are wasting your time again. Redditor follow-up, if I recall correctly, his son's mother had a one-night stand while drunk, took full responsibility, made no excuses, remained good friends with him. Unlike his ex-wife, the serial cheater. Now it is legitimate to state that they are both cheaters, but his son's mother really worked on herself afterwards. I could be wrong about that, but I seem to recall that. Redditor 2, as I predicted exactly, comment made on your previous thread, that your ex-wife keeps Chris around like a pet. He is also a victim to your poison of an ex-wife. Only this time the pet became unruly and attacked his abusive owner. Op answer, he didn't look like the kind to be body slamming people in parking lots. He did what he did, but my ex is determined to ruin lives. Redditor 3, honestly do what works for you. The folks on Reddit and say what they want, honestly do what works for you. You seem to be getting along with your son's mother and go with the flow, riding the wave. Go ahead and do that works for you. Redditor 4, so you're just friends with benefits with your ex? Very confusing for your child. And I hope you're considering your ex's feelings here too. If she wants more but you do not, then it's a big disservice and ultimately re-traumatizes your son with so much change. I hope y'all are talking about what y'all are doing and what your feelings are, instead of just rug sweeping and letting things happen. Your son has been through so much garbage. He doesn't deserve to be put through more, intentionally or unintentionally. Op answer, my ex and I are careful not to be domestically affectionate beyond the bounds of what we already were when my son is around. For instance, if they are at my place, she sleeps in the guest room. If we're at her place, I'll crash on the couch if I don't feel like driving home late. We've only been physical when he's at school and are careful not to act like we're a couple when he or my stepdaughter is around. Believe me, we both know the damage this could do, and we're doing what we can so we can have our fun and test the waters of being together again without hurting him by giving his hopes up. I do consider what she wants, and if she wants more than what is going on, we can sit down and talk about how and if that's going to happen. Redditor 5, has your ex tried to talk to you? Do you know if she regrets? Other than therapy, how is she doing with your ex? Your stepdaughter, what thinks of your ex? I hope you can continue to support your stepdaughter. Op answer, I have 2 exes, so these questions are a little unclear. Question 1, my latest ex-wife has talked to me a lot, especially when my stepdaughter was missing. She does regret doing what she did or said she is. She gets dramatic about it, and I don't really care to hear her side anymore, so I tune out. Question 3ish, what does my ex think about my son's mom? She likes her well enough, they always kind of got along. Not sure she's aware that we've been sleeping together, don't really care what she thinks of that. Question 4, my stepdaughter likes my son's mother, is very sad at the state of her own mother, and is very upset with her over our marriage ending. Redditor 6, glad to hear you're in a good place now. Good on you really for being there for your stepdaughter. Wish you the best, Emmy. Redditor follow-up, Op, I'm a little confused. Is your stepdaughter biological dad the rockstar singer? You also talked to him, right? And he also said that your ex began a relationship with Chris while married to her. But that guy cheated on ex as well. Redditor 7, man, we were all wishing for karma on your second ex-wife, but damn, that's brutal. Like, I wanna say she got what she deserved, but, damn man, has she spoken to you since the attack? Does she now finally realize how bad Chris was? Op answer, I visited her at the hospital and lectured her for whatever reason. According to her, they had stopped the affair shortly after I confronted her. He got possessive and claimed that now that I was out of the way, there was no reason they couldn't be together. She explained to him that everyone knowing she cheated with him made it less likely they would ever be a couple, and he was like so severely emotionally devastated by this that he was crying really intensely. She felt bad and decided that ending things more slowly would be better, and after explaining that to him he seemed alright and the affair continued. She started backing him off and didn't see him for like a month, and he stopped being emotional with her in any way, but they still slept together. It's only when she announced that she was trying to date again that he snapped. He deserves to be buried under the prison for what he did, but she really has to accept that she ruined this man's life. Taking his assault out of the equation, she ruined him. Redditor 8, consequences for one's actions are often ugly. Not saying X deserved this, no one does, but hopefully she finally starts realizing how much damage acting this way does. Poor stepdaughter has gone through the ringer as well. You're doing a great thing offering her somewhere stable and safe to hang out. You stepped up big time here. Op answer, even after all this I bet she and Chris would get involved again if he ever gets out. When it comes to my stepdaughter, she needs someone, especially with her father and the whole side of her family absent now. I hate that her father did this. If he'd have kept her in his home country I would have still hated him for it, but at least I would have seen he gave a S it. Redditor 9, good to hear from you, man. Karma is a BTCH, ain't it? Redditor 10, damn, your second ex-wife just couldn't leave well enough alone. Her always playing Chris really did a number on him. It is horrible what happened to her, but there is only so many times you play with fire before you get burned. I'm very glad you and your first ex-wife are back together. I remember reading your story and towards the end you called her your MVP. For being there for you when you were going through this with your second ex. I'm sure your son is happier, and I'm sure your stepdaughter is glad you have a good man and father figure in her life. You are a good man for doing what you are doing. Hopefully your ex will recover and get some sense of normal living soon. Her daughter needs her. Op answer, second ex needs to wake the hell up, and I'm really hoping a literal broken neck will get her thinking better. I did visit her in the hospital when she was more on the mend. I don't know why I decided to lecture her and warn her about her lifestyle like I was a parent talking to a child, but I told her that this was proof positive that Chris had to be gone for good and she needed therapy to address why she does the things she does. She seems to understand that, but I don't have any hope that she's actually learned anything. If losing me and her stepson and her home taught her nothing, Chris becoming Jack the Ripper isn't going to teach her anything. Redditor 11, truly feel bad for the stepdaughter. Say must be in hell right now, and Op seems like he only stable parent figure in her life. Be there for her the best you can, Op. Don't let her suffer the consequences of what her parents have put her through. Op answer, I'm doing my best. She's got her old room back and she really likes that part of all this. I'm gonna keep her as far away from that hell as I can. Redditor 12, I remember you and your story very well. First of all, I am very happy for you that you get along so well with your first wife and your son. While I agree that it might be confusing for your son when you two spend time together, I think that he also likes it at the same time. Just make sure that you don't give him any false hopes or ideas of mom and dad getting back together and then splitting up again. It is also great to hear that you get to spend time with your stepdaughter, even though the circumstances are very sad. Regarding the second wife, I will not say that she got what she asked for. No one deserves what happened to her, but she really needs serious therapy. Because from all that you wrote, I would bet that she would still answer calls and letters from Chris in jail because he is her soulmate, remember? She is a broken character, but the good thing is, that is no longer your problem. How is your son doing in all this? And his stepdaughter talking to a therapist? After being kidnapped and what happened to her mom, she is in dire need of a therapist. Op answer, kidnapped and then abandoned, that poor girl. I'd take her full time if I was legally allowed to do so. Her grandparents and I are getting her the help she needs. My heart breaks for his because before all this happened my stepdaughter was the absolute brightest light in the house. I'm staying in her life, they'll have to force me out of it. My son is doing well and is in therapy himself. But he's back to his usual self, I feel. His mother and I try to keep whatever it is we're doing from him and aren't domestically affectionate in front of him. We're just in proximity to each other more. Redditor 13, thank you for this update. I'm glad to see that you and your son's mother haven't gotten closer. I remember when you posted that you said you felt you had reacted too quickly and ended that marriage instead of trying to rebuild it. I hope you can see that your son's mother knows what she did was wrong and had the consequences to pay for it. She still loves you and wants a life with you. I have hope that you can have a life now free from infidelity. Redditor 14, why don't you legally adopt your stepdaughter and then file for full custody, as it seems you're the best option she has for a normal life. Op answer, I want to look into this, because it's becoming increasingly apparent that her mother is no mother at all. Redditor 15, wow, I would never have thought this story would turn out this way. Redditor 16, this is going to be a random question, but I do recall you saying you were going to take your family to Disneyland earlier this year. If you did, how did everything go? Op answer, I had intended to go to Disney World, but arranging the travel during that time was really hectic, and as for Disneyland, we never ended up going. Next year though. Redditor 17, wow, the last time you posted you were in a different relationship, and everything seemed to be going so well, I thought that was the last we were going to hear from you. And now this. That pair are just a bottomless pit of trouble, and everyone around them always pays the price for their follies. It's unfortunate that you are unable to finally distance yourself from your ex once and for all due to your stepdaughter, but I guess it's worth putting up with the turmoil to keep her in your life. At least you are no longer directly affected by it all. One thing I always wondered about. You said that the ex's original affair with Chris was out of revenge for her first husband's infidelities. Do you think she would not have turned into the kind of person she is now and caused all this to happen if it were not for him? Or was this always who she was at her core? Edit, VTW, you might wanted to correct the last line in your TLDR, LOL. Op answer, thanks for the heads up on the edit lol. If I'm understanding your question, however, do I think my ex-wife would have been a different person had her husband not had multiple affairs on her? I do think she would be different in a positive. If you see pictures of her before that whole mess when she was first married and pregnant, she looked very idealistic and happy. She really loved my stepdaughter's father and explained to me many times that she thought her life had been perfect before that. If I had to do some serious thinking on her love life, which I have done in the past in moments of doubt, I think the men in her life, that husband was her favorite, Chris was someone she tried and failed to make him jealous with, and I was just an attempt for her to look normal. Redditor 18, okay, this is just wow. First, keep being super dad, that little girl needs some love right now. Second, my lord, the sh.t show this one is. So your ex had an revenge affair that turned into something of an obsession on both parties. Chris found out the hard way of playing a fool by getting involved with a married woman and being a little sh.t himself. He ruined his life. I hope this is a wake-up call to her, but I really don't think so. Can I ask a question? How did your ex feel knowing that her ex-husband basically took their daughter? I know his reason, but the method is completely out of line. Op answer, I'm doing my best with the little one. My first wife has even been making her lunches for school. So my whole end is trying what we can to give her a safe place to be a kid. She's been playing Minecraft a lot with her stepbrother. He stopped playing it regularly a few years ago, but he understands and wants to help take care of her, which is the sweetest I think he's ever been, which is really has me getting him a ton more for Christmas than I'd usually get lol. My second ex was in complete hysterics when her ex refused to bring her daughter home. She's gone on vacation with her father a few times during my marriage with her. And this exactly was her biggest fear. She expressed to me several times that she was afraid he might do this, and that his home country would never take the side of a foreigner over a citizen, and that if he wanted to take her and vanish he could, and this time he did. After all she did to me with the affair, I did my best to console her and try to solve the problem myself, because as you may have guessed, my stepdaughter is my little ray of sunshine. Redditor 19, damn. Just damn. I've been following your story since the beginning, and I must admit that I have been hoping things would get better for you. From this update, it would seem that the karma train ran completely over your ex, and kept her under the wheels for a while. I am heartened by the way you and your first wife are doing. I have to admit that I'm pulling for you guys to find that good place with each other and move forward together. From all you've told us, it seems like she did a 180 after her ons, and has done everything she can to show you who she really is. I agree that you need to move slowly so that your son will not get his expectations up, but from the way she stepped up this last year, I can't help but think that good things are going to happen for the both of you. I wish you the best with regard to your stepdaughter. I can tell from how you speak about her, that you and your son love her very much, and you have been the only source of constant support for her through the entire mess. Please keep us updated as to how you are doing, and good luck. Op answer, I'm gonna do everything to stay in my little girl's life. My first wife since my ex's injury has even stepped in to help with her. She's not unfamiliar with my stepdaughter, and a few weekends a year my first wife would take our son and my stepdaughter for the weekend, so they are comfortable around each other. As for her doing a 180, before the incident that saw us divorced, she and I were a happy couple and I didn't have a single complaint. She had been my friend since high school, where we dated off and on, then had a child together and got married. I know how bad it hurt when she did what she did, but looking at our lives as a whole, I truly feel I rushed the divorce because I was hurt. She'd never done anything before that to betray my trust, and nothing since, so I'm thinking at this point, not going to see a counselor or trying to work it out was a mistake on my part. None of that is an excuse for what she did. I still feel justified that divorce was a reasonable endgame for anyone, but I shouldn't have given up so fast. Redditor 20, well, some of that is unexpected. Your stepdaughter's father may have had a good intention given what a hot mess she is, but poor execution. The assault by Chris on your 2DX sounds like it surprised everyone. I would guess there is more to that story and what exactly it was about her conduct that motivated his violence. I certainly don't want to blame her, but it is curious. I am glad you are rebuilding with First X. It was your own comments of regret that motivated some to see that as something you should try. My best to your son and stepdaughter. Redditor 21, thanks for the update, Op. Sounds like you have had your hands full, and for one, I applaud your actions. I can't deny that I am pulling for you and your first wife. I read into a lot of what you have said on and off, and it seems that she found her center after her ONS, and has done everything she can to show you she has changed. Redditor 22, I can't blame this Chris guy. She is poison and everyone she touches withers and dies. As far as ex-baby mama, she cheated too. Broaden your horizons and find true happiness. You are being lazy by going back to something you know, your cheating ex. What if I told you not all women cheat? Would that help you to love yourself and find your true happiness? Op answer, I don't approve of what he did, but I can see what drove him into becoming a beast like that. I'm not being lazy and my horizons are plenty broad. My first wife, I've known her since we were 15, and she's only ever done one thing for which I couldn't let pass. Maybe I will eventually go out looking for another woman, but right now we're just playing. She was my best friend for much of my life, so if we fell back in love it wouldn't be a bad thing.